Shabbat Shalom. In addition to all of the great celebrations which we have this weekend, birthdays, anniversaries, and of course Gabe Steinberg's bar mitzvah, this is a wellness weekend for our congregation through JWell, our new wellness center, and that includes a visit from a very special friend, colleague, and Rabbi Jaymee Alpert, who has created Neshama, Body, and Soul, a blend and connection between spirituality and physical activity. And it's my honor and pleasure to welcome our wellness scholar in residence, Rabbi Jaymee Alpert.
Well, Shabbat Shalom. I'm so happy to be here this weekend and to spend Shabbat with you. I'd like to extend a mazel tov to Gabe and Gabe to your family as well. And I'd like to thank Rabbi Ruth and Luria and also Rabbi Alex of JWell for inviting me to be here with you this weekend. Before I was dedicating myself to Neshama, Body, and Soul, which I'll talk about in a moment, I actually was a pulpit rabbi for quite a few years on both coasts of the country. And after a few years on the West Coast, I'm glad to be back on the East Coast. And last year, I spent some time becoming certified as both a life coach and a fitness trainer. So this morning, I'm going to talk about the connection between the physical and spiritual parts of ourselves, and specifically about NBS, Neshama, Body, and Soul, which is a practice that I have created that combines physical exercise like push-ups and planks and squats with Jewish prayer and Torah reflections. Now, at first blush, it might not be obvious that prayer and exercise go together, and I will admit that sometimes it feels a little bit awkward to be out of breath from jumping jacks while trying to sing Ashrei. But I've come to learn that Judaism actually has a long history of valuing the physical and the spiritual at the same time. And I'm happy to say that over the last decade or so, modern science has caught up with the Talmud in this regard. About 11 years ago, I read an article in the New York Times about a therapist who took her clients walking or jogging in Central Park. And she noticed that people tended to open up more quickly and more deeply when they were moving than when they were sitting still in her office. I was really curious about what this therapist had learned and what it might mean for opening up spiritually as well as psycho-emotionally. So I showed the article to my fitness trainer, Fernando Martinez, and asked him what he thought. And he said, "Let's explore." So Fernando and I spent a long time, hours and hours over the course of months, talking about what it means to be both spiritually and physically active and how the two complement and enhance each other. Fernando shared with me what was then cutting-edge information, that exercise creates new neural pathways in the brain. Well, it's now widely documented that regular exercise releases neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, which increase blood flow and improve focus, reasoning abilities, memory, and cognitive performance, as well as mood and motivation. 10 or 11 years ago, this research was still pretty new, or at least new to the public. What I found remarkable a decade ago, I still find inspiring today. When we are physically active, we actually improve our brain function and create new ways to think, new ways to be in the world. So with this in mind, Fernando and I began creating what has become NBS, Neshama, Body, and Soul. I chose the Hebrew word, neshama, because it means both the physical breath and the spiritual soul, and we need both to be fully alive and human. Quite simply, without our breath, we wouldn't be, and without our soul, what would we be? And yet, so often, we treat ourselves as bifurcated. We are either in physical mode at the gym working out, or we're in intellectual spiritual mode in shul praying. What would it feel like, I wondered, to integrate these parts of ourselves regularly? What would moving our bodies do for our sense of spirituality? Once I began to delve in, I realized that while this feels like a modern question, the ancient rabbis really understood the connection between body and soul. There's a blessing known as Asher Yatzar that thanks God for creating our bodies with insight. This prayer, which has become part of our morning liturgy and is traditionally recited after using the restroom, so it doesn't get more physically basic than that. It comes from the Talmud, from Masachet Brachot, and links the physical to the spiritual. Asher Yatzar says, "Praised are you, Adonai our God, who rules the universe, fashioning the human body in wisdom, creating openings, arteries, glands, and organs, marvelous in structure, intricate in design. Should but one of them fail to function by being blocked or opened, it would be impossible to survive and to serve you. Praised are you, Adonai, healer of all flesh, sustaining our bodies in wondrous ways." For the Talmudic rabbis, the connection between the physical and the spiritual was clear. If our bodies don't work, we cannot serve God. Fortunately, modern medicine has offered us a lot of ground between failing to function and survival. But even so, I think this ancient prayer taps into a deep understanding of how important physical health is for spiritual health. Asher Yatzar has become a cornerstone for NBS, and reciting this blessing at the beginning of each session gives us a chance to offer gratitude for what is working within our bodies, even if we wish our bodies were working a bit better, even if we're tired or creaky or having a hard time getting up and down, and to contemplate how getting in touch with our physical selves can bring us closer to God. Asher Yatzar is just one example of how the rabbis understood that we need both our neshama breath and our neshama soul. And so much of Jewish liturgy can be read through the lens of both the physical and the spiritual. Berchot HaShachar, the list of morning blessings we recite early in the service, is also rooted in the Talmud, appearing shortly after the Asher Yatzar discussion. Before Berchot HaShachar became part of the synagogue service, people would say the blessings at home as they were waking up and going about their morning routine. The Talmud teaches, for instance, that when we open our eyes each morning, we are to recite, "Blessed are you, God, who gives sight to the blind," which also means, thank you, God, for imbuing us with aha moments. When we recite these brachot as part of NBS, we consider the dual meaning, just as we do when we engage in exercise. When we do squats, we feel the ground physically supporting our feet as we bend our knees and drive our hips back, while we also think about what keeps us grounded in life. And we might call to mind the blessing thanking God for making our footsteps firm. Today is Shabbat Mevarchim, when we recite a prayer asking for blessings in the new month ahead. Like Asher Yatzar and Berchot HaShachar, Birkat HaChodesh also comes from Masachet Brachot, and like these other prayers, Birkat HaChodesh connects the physical with the spiritual. This blessing, which we said just a few minutes ago, asks God to grant us sustenance and physical vitality and a life filled with reverence and love of Torah. Interestingly, this prayer that we now recite once a month to announce Rosh Chodesh was part of Rav's regular prayer practice. 1,800 years ago, Rav would end his daily Amidah with the prayer that connects body and spirit. Rav got it. He understood that we need both our neshama breath and our neshama soul to be alive, fully alive. When we practice NBS, we try to get it too. As we connect the too often disparate parts of ourselves, we also connect to ancient Jewish wisdom that is still fresh and relevant today. One NBS custom that I find especially meaningful is to engage in self-reflection while holding a plank. If you joined me yesterday at the JCC, we did 2 of these meditation plank holds, and if you join me here at B'nai Yeshurun tomorrow morning, we'll do 2 more. The plank is an isometric exercise. So when we get into plank position on our hands or our forearms, on our toes or knees or against a wall, we hold it without any other choreography. It builds core strength. And because we're not moving around, I like to use it as a time to consider core values and to ask core questions as well. Yesterday, as one of the meditation planks, I spoke about the blessings found in our Torah portion this morning, Parashat Bechukotai, and invited people to count the blessings in their own life. As we moved into plank, I asked everyone to think about one thing that they were truly grateful for in that moment, and to be honest about it with themselves, not to think about the thing that they should be grateful for, the thing that they would admit to being grateful for if they had to say it in public, but whatever it was, big or small, the thing that they were truly grateful for in that moment, and to express that gratitude in some way between yesterday morning and the end of Shabbat. In this way, we connected our physical core to our spiritual core, and we need both to be strong and resilient. While I won't ask you to join me in a plank hold right now, there's not quite enough floor space, although there is plenty of room on the bima if anybody's game. I will invite you to stand up if you're willing, if you're able, and to take a few steps. And you can do this from your seat as well. So take a few steps, whether seated or standing. Move your feet up and down. Feel the ground beneath your feet and consider what grounds you. Consider God making your footsteps firm. And if you have room, again, seated or standing, try a few steps with high knees. And if you can do this safely and without bumping your neighbor, take your right arm to your left knee, left elbow to right knee. And again, seated or standing. If you can safely do it, and if you're feeling energetic, you can add a hop, even in heels. You might feel your heart rate going up a little bit. And now I'll ask you to sit back down and to take 3 or 4 deep breaths. Really breathe from your core as we do in chair-based NBS before these meditations. And as you fill your lungs with air, notice how your heart rate begins to calm down, slow down. Maybe you yourself are starting to feel a little bit calmer, focused in a different way. And I invite you to consider what you are truly grateful for in this moment. Nothing's too big or too small, and it might be as simple as, wow, my footsteps really were firm. I'm so grateful I didn't fall. Or, I'm so grateful my neighbor didn't fall on me. So think about the blessing that you are counting. And now I'll ask you to think about one way you will express your gratitude between now and Rosh Chodesh Sivan, which is on Friday. At the end of the Torah reading this morning, we concluded the book of Leviticus with the words chazak, chazak, v'nit chazik. From strength to strength, so may we be strengthened. And indeed, this is my prayer for us. May we be strengthened in body and soul. May we be strengthened in our neshama. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi Alpert. For those that would like to join in our connection of body and soul, of exercise and prayer, please join Rabbi Alpert for tomorrow morning's 10:30 NBS prayer workout session right here.